like Miami.
Miami, 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 Miami.
It feels like Miami.
Welcome to the Heat Beat Podcast. I'm your host, Giancarlo Navas, and with me today, maiden voyage on our lovely program, Jason Patt of Cash Considerations and managing editor at ClutchPoints. Jason, welcome to the program. It's good to have you. We're going to preview maybe the saddest game in all of basketball, but we're here to do it together.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I don't know, between the playing games we've seen so far, there have been a couple definitely very sad ones already. So we'll see if Bulls Heat is able to dip to that challenge of some of the other ones that we've seen so far, including the one the Bulls were involved. I mean, both the Bulls and the Heat, the ones that they were involved with while the Bulls won their first playing game. It was certainly a interesting game, to say the least. It was also kind of hilarious, but certainly was entertaining. It looked like the Bulls were going to go out sad, but they somehow won, and now they're playing Miami Heat and Jimmy Butler, former Bulls.
Yeah,
Bulls great Jimmy Butler.
Listen, we got some crappy storylines to get into. Ranch Pervero in chat says, Jason, just so you know, G's disappointed he's not talking Raptors today. I'm a Raptors lifer. You know, I may cover the Heat, but my heart's in Toronto. I had Iman from Dishes and Dimes already lined up to come on. I was assuming the Raptors were just gonna walk over the Bulls. Jason, it's so bad. I thought Miami was going to beat the Hawks so easy. I had scheduled my whole weekend around Miami playing the Saturday slot. So I think this is all my fault.
you blew it.
I made reservations.
Look, the Raptors were walking all over the Bulls. Yeah. And it's game flipped. We'll talk about it.
The game flipped. But you know what games don't flip? The games at Miami Gaming Parties, because you deserve a customized gaming experience. Miami Gaming Parties delivers private custom video game tournaments for gamers and their lucky guests. This is truly custom. You can pick the game and the package premium or black tie VIP for up to 8 to 16 people. That's crazy. We bring it all, everything from PS5s to trophies for the winners. I wish playing people got a playing tournament. Athletes should get a trophy or something. It's a sad tournament, but you can play at home or at a venue of your choosing. Free on-site consultation for birthday parties, bachelor parties, anniversaries, corporate events, or anything you'd want to celebrate. Check out MiamiGamingParties.com for more information. You can find them on Twitter at Gaming Parties or on Instagram at Miami_Gaming_Parties or search Miami Gaming Parties on Facebook. Jason, this is the first game of consequence that the Heat and the Bulls play since Jimmy Butler and Derrick Rose were teammates. It's been a long time.
Yeah. It has been a very long time. That is crazy to think about. And Jimmy. I mean, I'm still a big Jimmy guy, so like
that's good to hear. Actually,
I've always was a Jimmy fan, and obviously that's 6 years ago now. And the Bulls have been just so bad since they traded Jimmy, and obviously Jimmy's been on multiple teams since then, and the Bulls just kind of consistently stunk until we're a little better last year, and then this year was kind of just like a whatever season. And now they're facing Jimmy for a do or die game to get smoked by the Bucks in the first round, but that's a whole nother story at this point. So it'll be at least kind of fun to face Jimmy, and I'm sure like Zach LaVine, I don't know if there's any extra motivation at this point since Zach was part of that Jimmy trade all the way back in 2017. And Jimmy's obviously been so good for so long, consistently good. And Zach, who's has never really won anything in his life, finally did have a huge game on the big stage the playing tournament last night against the Raptors. I mean, I tweeted like it was the best game of Zach's career. He just has never had a signature game because he's just played on losing teams his whole career. Last year, when the Bulls were in the playoffs, he was hurt, and just the Bucks series, just like whatever. The Bulls did win game 2, but then they got smoked. So like, and he just wasn't himself. So like that series was kind of just like a throwaway. So like last night was kind of his first like time to really kind of show out again on the quote unquote big stage. And he was able to do it. 30 points in the second half, 39. So that matchup will be fun. Obviously, we got DeMar and Kyle Lowry.
Best friends,
that whole
as they
thing
say.
We got going on here. Yeah. So DeMar playing the Raptors and knocking out Kyle Lowry could be quite a little storyline, again, then to get smoked by the Bucks. But so there are some fun little things going into this game of two teams that have been disappointingly mid all season.
So let's talk about this mid matchup, because I think there's some interesting kind of basketball things to chew on and to talk about. One of the things that Eric Spoelstra said today was They're looking to change their starting lineup. Now, don't be surprised. Maybe not their starting lineup, but don't be surprised if their rotation changes. And I took that to mean the starting lineup because Max Strus got kind of so ever since Kyle Lowry's injury in about January, early February, Gabe Vincent became the starter, and Kyle started coming off the bench when he came back. In mid-March. Caleb Martin was eventually moved to the bench after acquiring Kevin Love. Then Kevin became the starter, and Caleb came off the bench, which is really good for Caleb. And now, round and round we go. Max Strus starting, and with Jimmy at power forward. Although people like to say Max is the power forward, but I mean it's really Jimmy playing his minutes at the 4 there, defending and stuff like that. So that's kind of in play for Miami. But I want to talk about defensive matchups to start, Jason. So if you're Chicago, right, how are you dealing with Jimmy, who's going to be, obviously the guy who's going to be hunting mismatches, who's going to try to find smallest dude, find Lavine, put him in pick and roll. If you're Chicago, what are you doing?
I mean, I'm guessing they start Caruso on him just because, and they'll probably see a lot of Patrick Williams too. Like there was talk before the Raptors game, like, oh, they're going to try to start like Patrick Williams, go a little bit bigger, and just get a little more size out there, especially just to match up with like the wings that they have. And they did not. They stuck with Caruso and Beverly and starters, and Caruso had an amazing game. I mean, yeah. Caruso is one of the best defenders in the league, and his impact in the game yesterday was enormous. He kind of kept the Bulls somewhat in the game in the first half, and then in the second half when the defense really picked up was a huge part of that as well, to steals, deflection. So I would assume Jimmy will see a lot of Caruso, and he'll take basically anyone. I think he'll see a lot of Patrick Williams. Patrick Williams did play 25 minutes against the Raptors, and he'll get tons of time off the bench. And just for that size, that strength, we know Jimmy, how strong he is, and all that type of stuff. So I'm assuming we'll see those guys get the matchup there. Yeah, again, I'm assuming there will also be the matchup hunting. You try to get on Zach and DeMar. It is still crazy that the Bulls defense has been like elite all season. I haven't believed it like all season, but they finished the year, I believe, as like a top 5 unit. I saw Sports Show today talked about how the Bulls have been like one of the best, or like one of the best in terms of defensive ratings since they got Patrick Beverly. And like the Bulls, the starting lineup with Beverly and Caruso has been really good. It was not so great yesterday until towards the end of the game, but to start. So the Bulls defense has been like surprisingly good. And I know the Heat offense has struggled a bit. So shutting down Jimmy will be huge. And then we'll see about the 3-point shooters. The Bulls are prone to giving up a lot of 3-point attempts. Sometimes the percentages have, like, they went through a huge stretch that I called like their defense so fluky because they gave up so many threes about a month or two ago. They were on like a 1 or 2 month stretch where they were giving up like towards the most threes in the league, but they were giving up like 30% or 29%. It felt so fluky, but that's kind of stabilized as it often does. And the Bulls defense has still been pretty good. They put forth a really good effort yesterday. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how that does play out with, if they're able to shut down Jimmy and not just get torched from 3. I mean, that should have the Bulls in pretty decent shape. So got to throw bodies at Jimmy. They have some really good defenders to throw at him, and it'll be a battle.
So to what you say about the 3-pointers, so Miami is second in most threes allowed, and Chicago is third via dunks and threes. So clearly, and I know Miami loves to help off the corners, love weak side help. They send a lot of, they swarm the ball, which is kind of weird against Atlanta that we didn't see a lot of that, and Chicago, kind of I feel as well when I watch. But although they pressure the ball a ton, which is when I like them the most, and they force a lot of turnovers. And I think with guys like Beverly and you think you saw that on full display last night. And I think it's quite similar to like the way Miami wants to play defense this season.
Yeah, I mean, because it was so weird. They've done, and we've seen this multiple times in the last couple of weeks. They come out and just stink to start. In that Grizzlies game where they were down 21 or 23, and then they outscored the Grizzlies by like 40 points. They forced like 16 turnovers in the second half in that Grizzlies game. They just when they start really pressuring the ball, and we did see that in the second half last night. Raptors start turning it over. We saw Patrick Williams, Beverly, Caruso all pressuring the ball, and the Raptors
and then
don't have many great ball handlers.
Running hard.
Yes. And then turning defense into offense, getting Zach out in transition. When they're able to do that, makes the Bulls just so much more dangerous when they're able to turn defense into offense, because we saw a lot of the game. The half-court offense was really stagnant for the Bulls. It seemed like the Raptors had their number, and then they kind of just started flipping that with the defense turning the offense, and then the offense got into a rhythm, and they put up almost 40 points in the fourth quarter after struggling for so much. So it really was just a weird game. But the Bulls, a huge part of their defense is being super aggressive. And if they can get away without fouling, that's huge for them. Because I mean, Caruso and Beverly are just so physical at the point of attack, and that makes up again a team. It's so funny that a team with Zach, DeMar, and Vooch. Like, there's no way that team could be good defensively, but when they have such aggressive point of attack defenders, and then a solid guy like Patrick Williams too, and that was the whole point with Lonzo Ball, and they were missing that for missing his presence there as that aggressive point of attack defender. They've kind of recreated that now with Beverly. Beverly is obviously no Lonzo Ball, but having multiple guys there helps make up for the lack of rim protection. And like Zach has gotten better defensively. DeMar at least has been trying. He's not like a total sieve. Like it's not always the best, but you're able to make up for some of those weak points on D with that immense ball pressure and those turnovers.
So if I'm Miami, right? So Miami's not a team that's like super turnover happy. And I think especially with Kyle back, they've been much better at taking care of the ball. I imagine Caruso, probably you said he's going to spend some time on Jimmy, means Pat Bev, realistically on Hero to start. I think you can kind of hide Lavine or DeMar on Gabe, and then the other one on either Max or Caleb Martin, whoever the other starter is, and then obviously Vucevic on Bam. So if I'm Miami, kind of given these parameters, if I'm Jimmy, I'm running pick and roll with Bam, right, and I'm getting either a drop or a hard show out of Vucevic, and I'm getting Caruso into space as a bigger guy. And I think that's a winning matchup for Miami. Patrick Williams is a guy that I'm actually more concerned about because they have a size thing where sometimes, I mean, Jimmy not always, but for sure Bam gets a little discombobulated with size, and Jimmy, I think we've seen times. I even talked about when we were previewing the Hawks series, and they put John Collins on Jimmy, which obviously kind of clearly bothered him. I thought the wacky move was to put Capella on Jimmy because we've seen in the finals, Vogel had Anthony Davis put Jimmy. I know that against the Mavs a couple seasons ago, they put who's their giant white guy, whose name I'm
Kleber.
Yes, they put Max Kleber.
Maxey?
Yeah, on Jimmy, and that kind of discombobulated. So that's the stuff that I look at. And if you're telling me Caruso, I think if you're Miami, your objective at that point is let's not turn the ball over. They're going to play very aggressively. They're going to play up. They're probably going to go over a lot of screens. Jimmy's not a shooter from three. And you have to manage that. And once you get over that, Chicago, as you said, their rim defense, they're kind of middle of the pack in allowed field goals and percentage. They're about the same. I think they're 20th in field goal percentage at the rim. So I think you can manage if you're Miami. I think it's just the other end where we have some problems. I mean, their offense is it's sad. I mean, I say handle. I mean, as good as an offense that can't shoot can. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, the Bulls certainly know a lot about not being able to shoot. It's been really just such a weird season for them. Yeah, it's just been such a weird season for the Bulls. Again, that they're off. I mean, the Bulls and Heat, I believe, offensively both were 24th or 25th or something like that towards the bottom of the league.
Wow, literally exactly that.
Yeah, right. It's right there. And it's been the defenses that's carried them. It's been so weird. Such that would not what like anybody was expecting, just given the roster construction of these teams. But it's been weird. I mean, the fact that the Bulls won the game yesterday, their 3-point shooting was awful until they finally started hitting from threes late. Obviously, they had incredible free throw defense. Don't know if the Bulls are going to have that advantage. It doesn't sound like it in Miami with DeMar DeRozan's daughter screaming and all that kind of stuff. So
right, she has to go to school.
According to DeMar,
okay,
she's got to go back to school, even though you're DeMar DeRozan's daughter. She can't miss a week of school for some
this is big
shenanigans
this is big time. School can, math lessons can wait. I mean, she has a job to do.
You're right, and she did a dang good job of it. Truly one of the goofiest, most funny ways for a team to lose a game.
Do you believe she affected the outcome? Yes or no?
Absolutely. There's just no way they were.
I'm there.
Yeah, I mean, the 18 of 36, and it wasn't like it was Jakob Poeltl, hack a jack or hack a yak, whatever you call him. It wasn't like he was missing a bunch of free throws. It was Siakam was 5 of 11. OG, I think, was 3 of 8. Barnes was 4 of 7. Fred VanVleet's a 90% free throw shooter, was 3 of 6. He hadn't missed 3 free throws in a game since early this season, and he had been over 90% the last month or so, and almost 90% for the season. Great free throw shooter, and they're just missing, and it was so funny. So it'll be interesting, and just with the Bulls, the Heat matchups this year have been really interesting. Because last year, when the Bulls seemingly were a better team, they couldn't do anything with the Heat defense. The Heat aggressive defense you talk about, they had just no answer for it. And I think the Bulls lost all 3 games they played. I think it was basically like split this year. Like the Heat beat them up last year. Bulls offense had just zero chance against them. And then this year, the Bulls have roasted the Heat defense, and the Heat defense has, correct me if I'm wrong, it has not been as good as it has in the past.
It's been
Is that correct?
straight up
like it's
bad post All-Star break. It's been bad. So
yeah, that's what I thought. So yeah, it's been just a bit rough for them. And the Bulls were they beat them on opening night, and then there was another game earlier this year. I know there've been
that
injuries,
one was
and the
bad.
Bulls were relatively healthy.
That was bad. Oof, my God.
And then this most recent one, when the Bulls were up 30, Miami almost came back, and then the Bulls pulled away at the end. So just like really weird games. And just the last 2 seasons were both these teams pretty similar. Obviously, no Lonzo this season for the Bulls, but the Heat pretty similar team as they were last year. Bulls similar core for the most part, and outside Lonzo, they've been healthy. And he destroyed them last year. Bulls have destroyed them this season, which is why, I will admit that I'm pretty confident about the Bulls winning this game, and I've said it on my podcast last night. And I said it on Twitter.
Most people I think pick on Miami.
It was. I mean, I know Miami's 5.5 point favorites or 5 point something like that. But just the way that the matchups have gone this year, I know regular season doesn't always mean anything, but the fact that the Heat did not look good against Atlanta. Again, the Bulls did not look good. The Bulls should not have won the game last night. Let's be real.
I think both teams had really good second halves, and pretty much. But I mean, Miami fell a little short, and you know
the Raptors were the better team last night for 40-ish minutes of that game. The Raptors should have been up by 25 if they would have made had like a normal or an average to bad free throw shooting. It's
slightly below average.
The game would not. The game would not even close. So even like Zach going off there in the second half wouldn't have even mattered if the game was a 25-point game instead of 19 or 18. Like maybe it would have gotten close still, but I feel like if it would have been at 25-ish or more, maybe that's a true like throw in the towel moment, and the game wouldn't have even gotten close. So the fact that the Bulls are in this game to begin with is kind of crazy because they were so bad for most. But even still, I'm still pretty confident about them winning, even though, again, I'm a huge Jimmy guy. Stopping Jimmy, especially, and he should be motivated after he really struggled against Atlanta, not thinking he's not going to go 6 of 19 again or whatever. He's going to come out, and I would expect to have a big game. But Miami just seemed so mad all season, and I know they've had the close game thing. I believe the Bulls do have like a better point differential. Not that necessarily means anything, but
they do, yeah.
He were just in so many close games this season, and the Bulls did kind of pad their point differential with some huge blowouts in the second half of the season. But teams are pretty similar overall, equally. But just the way the Bulls have handled Miami, for some reason I have a lot of confidence in them winning this game. But again, the Bulls. It would not surprise me if the Bulls came out and laid a stinker and Miami won. Would that surprise me? No, nothing would really surprise me at all. Again, except like a big blowout. That's what I said about the Raptors game. Like the only thing that would surprise me is a blowout in either direction, and it was looking like a blowout. But the Raptors, again, the mid Raptors,
they raptored it up.
Fell apart. They wrapped it up. We had a meme, and I was tweeting about this all last night. We had a meme back in the day, back when Jimmy was on the Bulls. The Bulls had like a really long winning streak against the Raptors, and we started calling them the Trashters. And Patrick Beverley called them trash, apparently, like right to the GM's face last night after the game. But the Raptors trashed it up. Their offense fell apart. They missed all their free throws, and the Bulls were able to pull it out behind Zach's and a big run there. So Zach's been playing really good. I feel really good about the way Zach's playing. I'm assuming Jimmy is going to get a lot of time trying to slow down Zach. And obviously we know Jimmy's one of the best perimeter defenders in the league. He certainly could do that. But Zach has had a lot of success driving the basket. I think he took 15 free throws last night. His finishing in the second half of the season has been incredible. Obviously, Bam will be important if he stays in the game in terms of rim protection on those Zach drives. And I guess Jimmy just at the point of attack as well. So I'm almost overconfident, shockingly, even with this Bulls team being so mid. But again,
the mid
they
off,
lost,
baby.
it wouldn't surprise me either.
The mid in. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about Miami kind of attacking them, how Miami's going to defend. We talked about Chicago's going to defend Miami. Let's talk about how the Heat are going to defend the Bulls. So I was thinking about this earlier. So depending on kind of how the lineup changes, obviously Bam going to be on the center, you're going to want to switch him out. I think they're going to want him on, Lavine, I think most of the time. I think DeMar, I know Kyle doesn't start, but I know Kyle is going to spend a lot of time on DeMar. They like him on Middleton, on those kind of non-speedster kind of players where he can kind of use his body and kind of, contest shots and push guys off their spot. The Lavine kind of aspect of this is interesting because a guy that can, not that Miami thankfully doesn't drop, which, he's a guy that, if you give him a little bit of airspace, he's going to rise up and shoot. And I'd be, because of Chicago's kind of shooting woes, I'd like for them to defend him, not dissimilar to how they would kind of Trae Young, right? Like, let's make him a playmaker, right? Let's force passes. If he comes off of a pick and roll, Bam gets the switch, you load up. Whoever the strong side defender is, you pinch in. I think Jimmy at the nail is kind of super important to what their defense does. And that's why, I think Jimmy probably should defend Lavine, on the ball. But Jimmy off the ball, I think, is where you kind of get a lot of these turnovers, where he kind of, digs in from the nail. You have the guy from the strong side, kind of dig in and pinch in and all that. And then you have your weak side help kind of coming. Obviously that weak side help has been small all year, which has been the problem. It's Gabe Vincent. It's Kyle. Against the Hawks, it was Kyle Lowry as the low man rotating and getting killed by every Capella roll. Vucevic is the guy that I see kind of hurting them. Offensive rebounding, we saw what happened against Atlanta. Right. And Miami's a good defensive rebounding team. They're like 4th all year. I saw somebody on the Ringer wrote a piece today about Miami's bad rebounding, which they were using rebounding as a counting stat, not rebound percent or defensive rebounding percentage. Happens to the best of us, but shouldn't be doing that in 2023.
No.
But for sure, you're going to, they're going to be switch heavy to stop kind of the heads of the snake. And I think Vucevic is the guy that could flip the game for Chicago. We haven't talked about him yet, but I think that's the guy that you look at because those small bodies on the back line, they don't have any power forward. That's a part of the game that I'm like, I don't really know how that's going to go.
Yeah, the Bulls haven't really been a good offensive rebounding team. I think they kind of sell out a lot to not give up transition points and stuff like that. So, but we will see if they do have that advantage. It'll be interesting to see if Vooch is able to take advantage of that. And I'm sure against the smaller team, I know Stacey King and Bulls announcers are always talking about they need to pound it into Vooch, and don't always love doing that. But this theoretically could be a matchup, as you mentioned, that he could make some hay there. We'll see if Andre Drummond plays at all, if he can make any kind of impact. He only played, I think, he played the first half stint last night, and then they went to Derek Jones Jr. The Bulls do like going small a lot with Derek Jones Jr. at center. But again, in general, they just that weakness of the Heat is not something that the Bulls are really built to really take advantage of either. So that could be a good thing for Miami, just because they don't pound the offensive glass. Vooch obviously could possibly be a guy who does it, but he does spend a lot of time kind of on the perimeter or at the elbow, initiating offense from the elbow and stuff like that. So we might not do that. A guy like Patrick Williams, sometimes we see him get really aggressive on the offensive glass. Occasionally, he almost had a really sick putback dunk last night that he missed. So he's a guy you can possibly watch out for, taking advantage of that type of thing on the offensive glass. But Bulls have just been a team that has not been a big offensive rebounding team. Again, I think they've been doing that to help limit stuff going the other way, and that's kind of helped their defense. So there's some give and take there with that. So, and Vooch in general, Vooch has had a pretty nice year. He was kind of a scapegoat last season for a lot.
Yeah, he was.
This season, he's going to be a free agent, and I think a lot of Bulls fans are just whatever with Vooch. If they lose, it wouldn't be great to lose him for nothing. And I think a lot of people are talking about they traded him at the deadline, but individually, he's had a pretty nice year. And defensively, I mean, he's been the center for all 82 games on a team that finished top 5 in defense. He's been fine defensively for what he is. His positioning's pretty good, and offensively, he was pretty efficient this season. So he is in a position where he could possibly have a big game against a smaller Heat team. So it definitely could be an X factor right there.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what worries me. I think obviously Lavine is going to get his, and I don't see them. Their defense does not have, they don't have the teeth to kind of do that like what they did last year to them and to Trae Young, right? I think it was pretty clear. They have to overhelp a lot, and I think and that's the other aspect of it as well. You want to swarm these guys and make them passers, and you want to pick off those passes. You want to make them playmakers under duress. And DeMar's a much improved playmaker, from his time in Toronto. And I know Zach has kind of improved a little bit every year, but similar to like Tyler Hero, you don't want Tyler kind of like orchestrating your offense as a passer. And I think with those guys, it's kind of a similar thing where, okay, well, they're clearly the best kind of scoring guys on the floor. Let's make them passers. Let's get the ball out of their hand, and let's make these so-so shooters, make shots. DeMar, obviously, I think the free throw rate's super down, right? As opposed to as it's been for his career. That's the other area.
Yeah, he definitely has not. His slowed down a little bit for sure. He still can get to the line. His pump fake, we know, is still really good. But Zach's been the one who's been so much more aggressive getting the basket and getting free throws. Especially, yesterday, again, Zach took, I think, 15 free throws. To the point about turning them into passers and making the other guys make shots. That's could be a huge part of the game because the Bulls, we know, and it's something we have hammered on all season. They just don't have high volume 3-point shooters as they're on the team. You're in your starting lineup, Caruso and Beverly. So it'll be interesting to see how the Heat defend that starting lineup with Caruso and Beverly there. I think last game was a game where I think Beverly had like 14 straight points at one point. Just really stupid stuff. Beverly does anything offensively in that game. He totally went off. But those are two guys they load up on DeMar and Zach because they did that. The Raptors did that to a lot of success in that first half. And when they built their big lead, it was because they were forcing turnovers. Zach and DeMar looked out of it. And then Zach kind of started just putting his head down and getting to the basket and drawing those fouls. And Toronto just was not able to stop him all of a sudden. So if the Heat are able to stop them at least to a degree, force the other guys to make shots, it's basically kind of a hit or miss from there because, again, the Bulls were only 7 of 26 last night. They are the lowest 3-point, I think, attempt team in the league this season. In the last 2 seasons, just their 3-point rate is awful. You look at the other guys they have in the team. Again, Caruso and Beverly are not knockdown 3-point shooters. Vooch has been is like super streaky off the bench. Pat shoots over 40%. Patrick Williams shoots over 40%, but he's still kind of a hesitant 3-point shooter, even though his percentage is good. Kobe is also very streaky, so you could get a Kobe game where he goes off from 3, or you get a Kobe game where he's just totally off. Last night he started, I think he had 9 points in the first half, made 1 3, didn't do much in the second half, but that's a guy who could be an interesting player in this game if they are able to force DeMar and Zach to give the ball up, force those other shooters or those other Bulls to make shots. It's going to come down to Patrick Williams, Kobe White. Both those guys had pretty nice games yesterday, helped out. Patrick Williams didn't shoot that great, but he had a few big threes, had a few sick dunks. So making those other guys beat you, especially with the Bulls' lack of volume 3-point shooters, is super important.
My chat, Jason, they're battered, they're tattered, they're sad. They don't want to be listening to a preview. I saw Ryan Spervero said this Heat team is an abusive relationship. Like he's still here, like cheering. Other people are asking, you think they do Alonzo for Duncan swap? They've already pivoted to the offseason. Ryan also said, Jason, we're extremely offensive. Definition being causing someone to feel deeply hurt, angry, or upset about the Heat. Schmeeth and Smolnik in chat says, G's done more streams in the past 24 hours and the Heat have offensive rebounds against the Hawks. Jason, this is like my 7th straight day of content. I am so tired. Please make it stop. Jason, make it stop.
Sounds like you're happy if the Bulls beat the Heat tomorrow and just get this miserable season over. Bulls
are
fans
Bulls
have kind of
fans
been the same
saying
way
that?
all year.
Heat fans are like,
I think Bulls
put me out of
a lot of Bulls fans have also been sick of this team.
Heat fans are sick.
Bulls fans were. The Bulls were. They've been so bad for so long now. Last year was such a breath of fresh air at the start of last season, and it was like, oh, the Bulls are finally back. Here they are. They're fun. And then the end of last season was so miserable, and then they kind of just didn't do anything in the offseason, and the team has just been, again, kind of miserable all season. They were 7 games under 500 before they got Patrick Beverly. They have played a bit better and got some really nice wins with Beverly. But ultimately the outcome's going to be the same. Again, even if the Bulls beat the Heat tomorrow, the Bucks are just going to stop them into the ground, which is what happened last season.
Are the good fans in Chicago rooting for a loss?
I don't think rooting. There's plenty of Bulls
hoping.
fans.
How about hoping?
How about hoping? I wouldn't say like I'm rooting for a loss. Hoping. I think secretly, like here's just
Jason's like, I want a vacation.
If they lose, I don't care. Like I was ready. Like when they were getting smoked by the Raptors last night. I was like, all right.
You've
Is
succumbed.
it that surprising that they're going to lose this game in Toronto? No. And am I upset the season's over? No. You get an 8% chance, I think it is, that They have a top 4 protected pick going to Orlando this season because of the Vooch trade.
Yeah.
And they would have, again, something like an 8% chance to get in the top 4 and like a 1 or 2% chance to get number 1. They had a 1.7% chance to get Derrick Rose, and they won that.
I'm very familiar.
Maybe they'd be able to, maybe they'd be able to pull that again.
Do you know who got the second pick that year?
Tomorrow,
do you remember?
That was Beasley. Michael Beasley.
That's how we got Beasley and not Derrick Rose.
Yeah. So yeah, if they lose tomorrow, even though, like I said, I think they're gonna win, but if they lose and they disappoint, and they play a terrible game, I don't care. It's like whatever. I'll get to make fun of them. A specialty of making fun of the Bulls. When I started our Cash Considerations podcast with Ricky, my co-host Ricky O'Donnell, it was like the Jim Boylan years. All we did was make fun of them and make fun of Jim Boylan.
Years.
Yeah, making fun of the Bulls and just ripping their terrible ownership in front office is something I'm used to. So if the Bulls bow out, we can make fun of them for a miserable season. It wouldn't be bad. If they won, like good for them. Good for them for winning, making history and becoming the first 10 seed to make it through. I think both 10 seeds, I think, were the first 10 seeds to win last night. That man, the OKC, but
in the East.
Yeah, we could see maybe Patrick Beverley. Yeah, we could see Patrick Beverley jump on the Heat, scores table and talk some shit to the fans.
That's what I'm saying, Jason. That's how this ends. So I told every Heat fan is like, "Oh, bro, just put me out of my misery." I was like, "Are you ready for Pat Bev to jump on the scores table and do this is my house?" Is Miami as Miami is flooded because it'll be an empty arena because their city's absolutely underwater. For every national media person's like, "Har har har, there's nobody at the arena." Well, it's because you have to paddleboard there and it's dangerous. The whole city's it's been raining for 6 days. It's crazy. The airport's not functioning. And Pat Bev to be staring in front of an empty state arena, or the whatever they call it, a center now. It's an arena. I'm not calling it whatever they're calling it.
Yes, new name. That's right.
God, whatever. Some other tech company. Pat Bev, this is my house. Because Pat Bev once upon a time was on Miami training camp roster, was cut for Carlos Arroyo or something, and and yeah. So that's
ever since basically the Bulls. I was gonna say ever since the Bulls signed Patrick Beverley, the joke has just been like, whatever. He's had this playoff streak going, and he's gonna do the thing in the playoffs. The Bulls are gonna get in the play-in tournament. They're gonna somehow make it through the play-in tournament. Patrick Beverley's gonna jump on somebody's scores table, and then they're gonna get smoked in the first round. It's all coming to fruition. It's setting up for that tomorrow night in Miami.
Beautiful.
For Patrick Beverley to do his thing again
on the shores of Biscayne Boulevard in the Atlantis that is Miami-Dade County. I want Miami to win, but people are such downers on the time. I just listen, Jason. You know me on Twitter. I'm a bit of a hater. I'm a big Joel Embiid hater. I'm a big Sixers hater. I'm a big Knick hater. I'm a big DeMar DeRozan hater. And my legacy can't handle losing to DeMar. I've said too much. I cannot be put. See, if it was a playoff series, I'd be pretty confident. But in a one game take all. Jason, I had the tweet in drafts. DeRozan losing games in Toronto. What else is new? I had it ready. I had it ready to go, and they came back, and I had to. I couldn't fire it out. I'm under. This is a legacy night for me. So for some people might be saying this is a game for ping pongs. Some people might be saying this is for the right to challenge the Milwaukee Bucks. Others may say this is a right to get swept by the Bucks. This is for me to say on Twitter. Jason, I need this. I can't handle a DeMar 30-point night with like
DeMar
Kyle going 1 for 10.
Oh man, that would be.
I
guess that would be great for DeMar's. That'd be great for DeMar's whole thing, beating the Raptors and then totally not playing Lowry if Lowry laid an egg. And Lowry had I've made some jokes at Kyle Lowry's expense. I believe you know that because I've called him washed for a few years now. And he came, and I did not watch Heat Hawks. I actually was watching Air. I went to see Air at the theater. The Air movie was. I checked my phone. I saw what happened. I looked at the box score. I was like, oh wow, whatever. Hawks win by 11. And then I saw Kyle Lowry at 33, and I was like,
game high.
How did they lose this game by 11? Yeah, and I saw Jimmy had a bad game, and the Hawks had 63 rebounds and destroyed them on the glass. But
that few.
So did Kyle Lowry kind of blow his load there, and that was the one game, and now he's going to be cooked tomorrow, and DeMar just roasts him, which would be again great for DeMar, but
bad for me.
Yeah, we'll see. Legacy game for you, yeah. Great for DeMar, bad for you.
That was Kyle's
legacy Twitter night for you.
Legacy Twitter night. That was Kyle's best game in a Heat uniform.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Just dominated. And as much as he got picked on as a low man, I thought he was actually really good on defense. I thought his help was good, and there's not much you can do when a 6 foot guy is coming to help on a Capella drive. But his best. We haven't talked about him tonight. That was his best game. He's looked so much better since coming back from that knee injury, and I know that he's dealt with a lot of personal things, and it looks like hopefully things are better. He's with the team again, and he looks in much better spirits, and he's having fun. But they need that production out of him, because they got it out of him and Hero, who, but a lot of us had kind of Hero's playoff struggles are very well documented here. And he came to play, Kyle came to play, and really Jimmy and Bam kind of laid eggs, although they had the reverse Toronto, where Toronto missed a bunch of free throws, they missed a bunch of layups. It was pretty spectacular. But a guy like Lowry can give you the playmaking, the pushing of pace, and I think against Chicago, they're gonna have to score a lot of points, because again, guys like DeRozen and Lavine and even Vucevic, they're going to get going, and it's going to be difficult to really contend with that. I don't think they have a ton of great options, as we've talked about today. But if those guys are hot, you're going to have to win a shootout. And that starts with that. We talked about turning the ball over, Kyle running breaks, being aggressive, going to the rim, getting to the line, getting these guys in foul trouble. I think Vooch in particular, I think you kind of want to limit. If you said, Derek at center, we're familiar with DJJ here. I think if you're Miami, that's what you want, right? You want him, a guy that is not the strongest, which is always kind of the knock on him here, and not a shooter, and kind of do that. So I think I don't even know how to feel about this, Jason, because I'm on one hand, I think Miami is a better team. They've gotten their ass kicked by Chicago all season, and still I'm they're better, right? They have Jimmy and Bam. They should be better, but also this team is ass and they stink, and Chicago's had their number. So I can't even say confidently that they're gonna win. And I break down the matchups that makes sense. I could talk myself. I don't know how to feel. I don't know. And that's the right, mid end. That's what what Adam Silver has done.
You look at with Jimmy and Bam, best two-way players in these games for sure. Zach has been great. DeMar is DeMar, but just overall two-way players. Jimmy and Bam are two of the better ones in the league, and then Hero is a great scorer. I'm really surprised how just mid and ass the Heat have been this season, and just all these close games. I know there have been the injury problems and the stuff with Lowry that you mentioned. It still has kind of surprised me. You just keep waiting all season for them to all right, here we go. They're gonna go on this run after they were a shot short of the NBA Finals last season, and here they are. 43, 44 wins this year, and now 44. They're do or die game after stinking it up against the Hawks, against another team in the Bulls who have just been mid all season. And you look at their team and think, they should be a little bit better, but they're just not. They're mid. They blow a bunch of leads. Their offense is not nearly as good as you think it should be. And again, it's kind of the Heat. Again, Bulls Heat, both bottom 6 or 7 in the NBA offensive rating. Just very disappointing stuff from both these teams for most of this season.
Jason, we have an update on the DeRozan storyline here. So United Airlines has offered to fly her to Miami's playing front. Not that DeMar is suffering. If I'm the Bulls organization, right, I am organizing some sort of VR classroom situation to get her there. They gotta open their pockets.
I saw the United thing. I was like, we'll fly you out there. It's I don't think that's the issue. DeMar said it last
maybe
night.
A jet.
She's got to go back to school.
Maybe a private jet to get her to and from as soon as the game ends. Get back.
Yeah, there you go.
Go to school. Listen, she's a hero. I did see one meme, and it was DR after.
There were some great memes
after Jimmy's 30th free throw, and it's somebody in a hospital bed, looking, saying no more. After yelling for Jimmy grifting his way to 30 free throws.
It was so funny because everyone this game starts and just there's the screaming. It's who is this woman screaming? And then there's DeMar's daughter, and then they start doing side by sides of the Raptors bricking free throws while she's screaming right as they're shooting. Because she had the great timing down, the great stamina.
Did you see the Jakob Poeltl one where he held the free throw and she screamed and he pump faked her scream, and then she did a second subsequent scream. I was like, she's on another level. She has this figured out.
Yeah, truly. truly the MVP. Zach LaVine and DeRozen, MVPs, getting the Bulls through the mid-in and into another mid-in.
I saw Raptors Twitter saying we raised that girl and now we die by her hands. Like, it was it was so funny. Well, Jason, we await this mid-in. Miami and Chicago once playing fierce conference rival games. The Big Three versus Derrick Rose's solo MVP. You know, the years of battles of Dwayne Wade going to Chicago. You know, all the history. You know, the first round series after the title. You know, Michael Jordan against Tim Hardaway and Alonzo Mourning in the Eastern Conference Finals. Two franchises forever tangled in history are going to play one of the worst basketball games I've ever seen between a 10 seed and a 7 seed for the right to get their ass kicked by some Greek guy. Jason, thank you so much for joining us. Remember to check out Can's Considerations right here, Blue Wire Network, Blue Wire fam. Stand up. Jason, do you have anything you want to plug? Tell the people where they can get your fine work or what's coming up for you.
Cash Considerations, Chicago Bulls podcast, as noted, part of the Blue Wire family. Love it. Had a new pod. We had a pod after the game last night. It was fun. Had a few drinks, and that always get a little rowdy there on those post game pods. And it was a fun game to talk about, and again, hilarious with the DeRozen and the Raptors choking. So had a new pod. So go check that out. Follow me on Twitter. I'm at Bulls_J. I will not actually be live tweeting the game tomorrow night. I have some prior plans. I did not.
You did the me.
Have this game to be. Yeah, I have some prior plans with the wife. So I'll be like paying attention. I'll be checking my phone, of course, but I will not be watching it live. I'll throw in some snarky tweets in there as I'm checking the phone. But I'll have to be watching it later. But I'll be trying to tweet about the game. I'll be tweeting about it afterwards.
Focus on your wife. You know, the Bulls and the Heat don't deserve that. I'm sure your wife is a wonderful person that, you know, deserves your full attention, not whatever the Heat and the Bulls have cooking in Atlantis.
I'll still find my wife. She probably won't like it. I'll be like digging it, checking.
Is she a fan? Does she like the games?
Not really. I mean, she likes go whatever. She likes going to games with me, but she's not. She likes going to games with me, so that's good. And she has fun at them, but she's not definitely not into it, super into it. So, and when I am if we're out to dinner or out whatever, and I'm checking my phone, always get a little side eye from that. But it's the playoffs, postseason, whatever you want to call it, the play-in, the mid-in. So there's a kind of excuse there to do it. I'll just say, I got to follow it for my podcast that I'll be doing. We'll have a new podcast Saturday morning talking about the game. Me and Ricky will ham it up no matter what happens. Like I said, if they win, we'll laugh. We'll preview them getting smoked by the Bucks. If they lose, we'll just make fun of them as we always do. So, there's the pod. Twitter, Bulls_J, and then also just shout out to ClutchPoints, managing editor there. Don't really do much work there myself, but shout it out, ClutchPoints. I'm sure. If you don't know ClutchPoints, we're known for the crazy graphics and all that kind of stuff.
The goats.
Do content as well. So,
the goats.
Yeah, the goat graphics out there on the basketball interwebs at ClutchPoints. So shout out to ClutchPoints as well. And that's it.
Shout out to ClutchPoints. Remember, guys, tomorrow we have pre and post game coverage. Pre-gaming with Frankie, Kenny, myself, and Coach Lou. We got you covered pre-game, and then of course the Hangover Time post game show. We got you covered throughout these mid-in and postseason. If Miami loses, it'll be the last Hangover Time ever. Remember, Alf is retiring from post-game duty, so make sure to get in if you haven't. Celebrate what has been years of great work that Alf has done. I think he's been on for 6 years doing the Heat Beat with me, so make sure that stop in and celebrate truly a great career. As Miami Heat Beat's on its 10th year. Jason, we've been doing this for 10 years, man.
Nice.
Yeah, so we're due for anniversary in May. Hopefully it's not after a Joel Embiid MVP, because that's the last thing I need in my life. So everybody make sure to check out our game day coverage, and we will see you back tomorrow with pre-gaming 30 minutes before the game. And make sure to, guys, leave early. Remember, the city's flooded. Leave early. Try to get there as early as you can. If you're there waiting an hour, do it, because the roads are not good. Still, I was down there today. So make sure you leave early. And hopefully we'll be talking after a Heat win.